Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to the Jaime Dee Show. Woo! Live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM on this hump day. Y'all, I made it back to Las Vegas for y'all. And when I tell y'all I'm tired, I'm tired. I was covering the BET Awards weekend this past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that's what they do on Monday. And then yesterday, I was specially invited by Hollywood Unlocked to the Hollywood Unlocked Impact Awards, which is put on by Jason Lee, and it was hosted by Tiffany Haddish. It was actually an amazing award show, and it was very, very inspiring. But then I had to get on the road right after the award show, which ended at midnight, to get back here in Vegas, which is 4.5 hours away. And they wanted your boy to stay at the after party. Welcome into the Jaime Dee Show, y'all. Super happy to have you here. I'm live every Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. PST, and live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook at the Jaime Dee Show. I'm happy that everyone's coming into the live stream right now. So you all know we're going to go over the daily news headlines, and then we're actually going to talk about this one topic that I find to be extremely heartbreaking. I'm not sure if you guys heard of the incident in Chicago where a 14-year-old boy had to use deadly force to protect his 35-year-old mother or 32-year-old mother who was attacked by a 35-year-old in a South Side Chicago fast food restaurant. And I'm going to get into that because I'm from Chicago. If you guys don't know that, I'm from the west side of Chicago. And so this is definitely a story that hits home, but it's still a social issue everywhere. So let's talk about that. And then later, I have an amazing interview with Joy White. Yes, you heard me, Joy White, who is the CEO of Flawed Masterpiece, an attorney and reinvention strategist. She has so much she's going to talk to us about. Again, Joy White, the CEO of Flawed Masterpiece, attorney and reinvention strategist. So yes, we're going to have a lot to get into today. And I want you guys to stick around because I will be reporting live from Essence Fest this Thursday, Friday, and upcoming Monday. Oh yeah, your boy is booked and busy. So let's get into the daily news headlines. So Chadwick Boseman among a list of other celebrities who are receiving a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2024, as reported by The Shade Room. Congratulations to Chadwick Boseman, and may he rest in peace. Your legacy will forever live on in the minds of everybody, whether they're young boys and girls or boys and girls my age or boys and girls older than me. You have definitely left a huge impact on society as a whole. Now, this is a very saddening news story. Ralph Y'all, if you guys don't remember, is a 16-year-old boy who was shot in the head by the 84-year-old man for arriving at the wrong house to pick up his twin siblings. And this is the first time he speaks out, and he spoke out on Good Morning America. Take a listen. So while we're getting it set up, again, this is his first time speaking on Good Morning America. He was alongside his mom, and it's a very heartfelt snippet that we took from social media because it was actually like, I think, almost 8-minute interview, and it was a lot to take in. And if you guys don't know the story, again, this 16-year-old boy, innocent 16-year-old African-American boy, was going to pick up his siblings and was shot and almost killed because he was shot in the head and then shot again after that because he went to the wrong house. Talk about a horrible, horrible situation. So while we're getting that set up, I also want to talk to you guys about some other things. There's a new data that shows in Las Vegas that rent is falling around the world, but most significantly by 6% here in Las Vegas. So they're saying that rent is falling and decreasing everywhere around the world, but most significantly in Las Vegas, and we are ahead by 6%. But despite this drop, it's not helping people afford to live in Las Vegas, especially the homeless population, as reported by Fox 5 Vegas. And I want to say, I am not homeless, but I don't see any type of drop. So I'm going to need y'all to figure that out. Okay, let's go back to this news story with Ralph.
So maybe this is their house.
Ralph mistakenly going to Northeast 115th Street instead of getting his siblings from Northeast 115th Terrace, 1 block away.
I actually wait a long time. I'm just on the porch. So then I hear the door open. I see this old man.
So what's going to happen is we're going to go to the next clip. So pretty much, long story short, he just says that he
Oh,
sees this old.
this must be like their grandpa. And then he pulls out his gun. And I'm like, whoa. So I like back up. He points it at me. So I kind of like brace and I turn my head. Before that, I'm thinking, there's no way he's actually going to shoot, right? The door is even open. He's going to shoot through his glass door and glass is going to get everywhere. Then it happened. And then I'm on the ground. I fall on the glass, the shattered glass. And then before I know it, I'm running away, shouting, help me, help me. He only said 5 words. Don't come here ever again.
His mom.
So if you guys can hear
I
it.
was worried already that maybe he had gotten a flat tire or something. And then we got a call from a strange number, and it was the police stating that they had him.
What were the doctors initially telling you, Cleo?
Oh, they didn't have to tell me anything. I'm a healthcare worker. He was partially alert when we got there, but it wasn't a pleasant sight. It was.
So if you all did not know about the story, again, it's a very disheartening situation. And to hear Ralph speak out for the first time saying that he just wouldn't have never thought he would get shot, and then he was actually shot in the head and was running through a neighborhood that he has never been in before, screaming, help me. That is just a very disheartening situation. And I'm glad that he's alive. I'm glad that he looks well. I'm glad that he's not paralyzed. I'm glad that he has his speech. I'm glad he didn't have to go through any type of therapy to rehabilitate him into regular life again. I'm sure he's going to need mental therapy and probably some other physical therapy, but he still seems to have his self, which is amazing and a miracle within itself. But this was just such a sad situation, and my thoughts and prayers go out to him, his family, and for all those individuals who don't see anything wrong with this. This is why we're always talking about race situations, because it ends up being a race situation. I'm gonna tell you, from a African-American man myself, I dislike talking about race situations. I dislike trying to have conversations and it turn into race. It's so irritating. But we have to, because of things like this, because so often my fellow African-American brothers and sisters are targeted for absolutely no reason. Could you imagine being that 16-year-old just picking up your siblings and being shot and almost killed? Could you imagine being the mom of the 16-year-old and having to get this call? I know her stomach dropped. And like I said, my thoughts and prayers go out to her. In other news, while being interviewed by Power 106 FM on the pink carpet of the BET Awards 2023, which was celebrating 50 years of hip hop, by the way, I was there on the media carpet. Oh yeah, y'all see that, booked and busy. Bow Wow actually said hip hop hasn't charted this year because everything sounds the same, everything is repetitive, no one is doing anything different, and he hasn't heard anything that he says he will hear 30 years from now. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't disagree with Bow Wow. I really don't. I personally believe that hip hop has evolved into a gimmick because everyone's just trying to get a social media sound. And I want to say social media because, yeah, we say TikTok, but we're trying to, it's like so often that these labels and these artists are trying to find things that are going to sound well on social media. And I'm not gonna lie, social media makes songs popular, yes, but they also make them annoying and played out super, super quick. I don't know about y'all, but I hate scrolling through social media and hearing I'm a baddie, but I must be a 10, or ha, yeah, I move like back to back to back to back. My booty hole, right? Like I'm just so tired of hearing the same songs back to back to back to back to back. It gets really, really irritating. Jay Gotti on YouTube says, I 100% agree with him. Not one lie was told. Trust me, I definitely agree. But I'm sure that there will be some songs. There have been some songs within our current time that have been very influential that I'm sure we're going to hear within the next 30 years. But I understand Bow Wow's point of view because he does come from an era where his music was not only influential, but it meant something. The lyrics actually meant something. They were actually used to relate to people's everyday lives. They were actually used to relate to the struggles of America. Nowadays, lyrics are, like you said, shoot 'em up, take somebody's money, get with these many people. My body parts are brown. Like, it's just so irritating. Hey, before we go to a break, we have one more story and scary Las Vegas news. A maintenance worker and 2 other innocent people were killed at Rancho D. Montana apartments. The suspect was said to have killed the individual with a sledgehammer and tried to flee the scene, actually going through the apartment complex leasing office, but he was caught, and his identity remains a mystery, as well as those victims, as reported by Fox 5 Vegas. I am praying for those victims, because could you imagine? Literally, like, yeah, I mean, it's better that it wasn't a gun, but still somebody trying to kill you with a sledgehammer. This man killed 3 people. We aren't sure the motive behind this, but please stay safe during these times, because there's a lot going on in Vegas. It's getting hot. People are getting irritated. People are acting irrational. So please make sure to stay safe. Hey, we're about to go to a break. However, I want you to know you're always welcome to call in at 702-221-7283. Again, call in at 702-221-7283. I want to hear your thoughts. But I'm also very grateful to have you all on the YouTube chatting live. Like I said, I'll shout you out if you guys have some influential and some good comments. Yeah. So keep commenting, keep being there, keep running up the views. You're now listening to the Jaime Dee Show live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM, live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hungry for the best barbecue in Las Vegas? Come out to the infamous barbecue and meat market, John Mole's Meats and Roadkill Grill in Las Vegas. John Mole's was featured on the Food Network's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Now take home delicious meat selections for your grill, and while you're there, grab a bite of the best barbecue in Las Vegas. With 2 locations now at Tom and Gowan or on North Decatur, you're sure to find the perfect meats for your next barbecue or party. Find us online at johnmolemeats.com.
At AR Heating and Air Conditioning, our main goal is to provide high-quality service without breaking the bank. From maintaining your HVAC units to fixing them when they are down, they are there for you. AR Heating and Air Conditioning offer reasonable prices, reliability, and professional service at a great value. For more information, go to fixmyac.net or call 702-646-4000. Beat the heat and call AR Heating and Air Conditioning today.
Welcome back to the Jaime Dee Show, live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM every Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. PST. Y'all have no clue how many times I've been saying that this past weekend during the BET Awards and last night at the Hollywood Unlocked Impact Awards. I will say this, I only messed it up one time, and I said from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m., and I was like, but hey, I want you guys to call in at 702-221-7283, because we're about to get into this extremely horrific Chicago shooting. Again, the number to call in is 702-221-7283. Let's get into the story. If you're just now tuning in, I already went over the daily news headlines. I'm about to get into this deadly Chicago shooting. And next, we're going to have Joy White, who is the CEO of Flawed Masterpiece, attorney and Reinvention Strategist. All right, let's get into this. And then we actually have a caller. We'd love to hear it. So, let's get into this horrible news. All right. In my opinion, this is my personal opinion, everybody. It turned into great news in my thoughts. I'm gonna just say that. If you don't know about this horrific story, a 35-year-old woman by the name of Carlisha Hood and her 14-year-old son were arrested and charged with murder in Chicago, Illinois this past week. And the story, it was seen on videotape that Carlisha Hood was in a loud verbal argument with 32-year-old Jeremy Brown. Jeremy told Carlisha if she says one more thing, he's going to knock Carlisha out. During the fight, Carlisha told her 14-year-old son to come into the Maxwell Street Express restaurant. The fight between Carlisha and this 32-year-old became pretty intense, because upon Carlisha saying that one more thing, Jeremy proceeded to punch Carlisha in the head and face 3 times. If you have not seen this video, it's extremely horrific. He punched her hard 3 times, and everybody in that store fled. Nobody tried to stop this. Nobody tried to help this poor black woman out. Nobody tried to de-escalate the situation, and it was ridiculous to watch. Now, during this altercation, Carlisha's 14-year-old son saw it happen, and once he did, he pulled a gun out of his hoodie and shot Jeremy in the back. Jeremy then fled the restaurant, and the 14-year-old son and Carlisha chased him into the parking lot. Carlisha ordered her son to continue to shoot and kill Jeremy, which he did. Jeremy was shot twice in the back and later died from his injuries. Both Carlisha and her son fled the scene and went back home. They were both later arrested and charged with murder. These Charges, though, and this is why I personally say turn into a better story, have since been dropped as of Wednesday, June 27th. Now, Carlisha has filed a lawsuit against the city of Chicago for emotional distress over shooting arrest. She stated, I would have never imagined being brutally attacked, beaten, and arrested. This was all reported by CBS News Chicago. Now, personally, I believe that this entire situation was horrific. Just like Naturally Radiant said on YouTube, this is very disturbing, and people have the audacity to blame her. And I agree. People have the audacity to blame her. Now, hear me out, everybody. Hear me out. Let's go through this together. And we do have a caller, so I want to hear what JD has to say. Again, hopefully, JD, you're calling about this topic because this was good. Naturally Radiant does say, though, sadly, he was not chased. That was not true. However, that's what all of the news headlines are saying, and all the news outlets are saying. So Naturally Radiant, you got to take that up with the news outlets because that's what they be reporting. I will say this too, though. A lot of people have been going against these news outlets and saying that they have been reporting the story wrong. Now, I'm going to tell you why it's a good outcome. It's a good outcome because so often do we see our African-American women not being protected. They are at the bottom of the totem pole of individuals who are not protected. And bravo to this 14-year-old hero who stood 10 toes down and protected his mother. Now, I'm going to just say alleged because people are saying that it's not true. But if they shot this, when they shot this individual, because we know that to be true because it's on videotape. And I don't want you guys to drag me, but this is my true thought process. I personally don't believe that allegedly they should have continued to go after him and continue to have shot him to death. I say that due to the fact because you are able to use deadly force to stop a deadly action from happening to yourself or to an individual who is being harmed. But I don't know. Again, if this is again alleged that they chased him out and continued to shoot him and wanted to shoot the girlfriend who was with him, I understand tensions were high. I understand emotions were everywhere. They said that the son pushed the mom out the way. Again, this part is all alleged, but I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. Just continuing to shoot and then continuing to chase somebody. Maybe just because of me. I don't know. I don't see it in me. But things happen when you are faced with adversity. So hey, I would love for you guys to call in at 702-221-7283 to give me your thoughts because personally, I am so grateful that these individuals, again, Carlisha and their 14-year-old son, are out. I'm grateful that the murder charges were dropped, and I'm happy that she's suing people in power because she deserves to. And this is a horrific situation. But in my personal thoughts, and this is me as a thought leader, once you shot that person and they ran and they were no longer a threat and you guys were able to flee, I personally say that they should have just fled. But you can't tell anybody what they should do. I will say that. I'm going to hold myself accountable. That's just the only thing that was kind of like, But hey, we do have JD holding on the line again. JD, we're talking about this situation. I want to bring you in and have a conversation about this. How are you, JD?
Fine, Jamie. I'm not familiar with the story other than what you're talking about. Last week you were talking about affirmative action, and I wasn't able to call in because you were too busy the next couple of days. But in this story that you're talking about, I would ask one question. Where did the 14-year-old get the gun?
The 14-year-old got the gun from the car. The mother was actually a CDL holder, and she was licensed to have the gun.
Good enough. Anyhow, last week you were talking about affirmative action, and I wanted to ask you, do you know how long that's been in action and how that got put in place?
Could you inform me?
Pardon me?
I said, could you educate me?
Well, it was put in place in 1972 by Republican President Richard Nixon. And it's been in effect for approximately 50 years.
Okay.
And the way you related the story, it was basically being used against blacks. And I think what's happening, the news stories that are coming about are Asians that are being used against Asians, not to allow them into Harvard and different colleges because of the fact that they are so proficient in their grades that they're not only passing blacks, Spanish, but also whites. So they were using this affirmative action against the Asian population primarily, But I find it hard to believe that you didn't know this was a Republican president that put this in effect for 50 years now, and that it's something that I think after 50 years should be enough.
So real quick, I would like to say thank you so much, JD, for calling in and also talking about the topic that I had at hand. And pretty much I reported everything on that, and I said everything I need to say. I won't have as much time to talk about this because I do have Joy White who's on the line, but I will respond to you because I'm big on holding myself accountable. And I'm really grateful that you actually called in. So I will tell you this, JD, because I am a live morning radio personality, because I do my own research and I have a master's in broadcast journalism, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. I am still pretty young and I'm still learning different things, which is why I'm open to having these conversations. And I'm grateful that you are doing your best to educate me on this situation. I will say I don't know who put affirmative action into place. One thing about me, I will always hold myself accountable, especially when it comes to talking about certain situations. But I will say this, as it pertains to your statements on surpassing Asians and so on, I have worked at two major universities that are PWI. One is a PWI and one is a HSI. I don't know. You know what HSI is?
No. What is your master's degree in?
Broadcast journalism. But real quick,
Okay.
an HSI is a Hispanic Serving Institute. And I've also worked in admissions at an HBCU. So I've seen it from three different angles. One of the HBCU, which is a historically Black college university, which is predominantly African-American. PWI, predominantly white institute, predominantly white. And then HSI, my undergrad was FIU, historic Hispanic Serving Institute. And I will tell you this, I worked in admission at all three universities. And I was a part of the process of accepting individuals. And I will tell you this, not once, I'm talking for myself, not once did we ever exclude an individual based off of their ethnicity. However, we did match certain individuals up. So let's say, for example, we already had 10 Caucasian people who were added in, who were accepted to City University. And now there's another, because let me tell you this as well. A lot of times we don't see that many minorities applying to PWIs and HSIs because they don't see themselves in those universities, or they're afraid they're not going to have the money to go to the universities, or they just feel like they're not going to get in. Me being one of the individuals who had those thoughts. And when you are on your 11th applicant and it's that individual, let's say Jake versus a Darian, who's an African-American male, and they have the exact same GPA, we're going to pick Darian just because Jake, nothing against Jake. Not saying Jake does not deserve to be in the university, but there's been 10 Jakes, and now there's finally one Darian, and we want to give that opportunity to that one Darian. But I will tell you this, again, as an individual who worked under the president, that one Darian is that one Darian. Then there's 10 other individuals who are Jakes who are still getting into university. So I do hear what you're saying, and I would just have to do my own research on that to see what you're talking about.
One other thing, there have been many, many cases where when you're talking about the persons with the same GPAs, there have been many, many cases. Some have gone to the Supreme Court where the other applicant, other than the African American, had a much higher GPA, and they were declined in favor of the African American. So you're wrong in that regard.
So let me comment on that, because that's a great point. Again, I worked in admissions, and so I can definitely talk about that. But it still goes back to my same example, JD. If there was 10 Jakes and that one Darian, they're going to pick that one Darian. But I will tell you this, and this is a fact I know to be true. We're not going to pick that one Darian just because he's Black. We're going to pick that one Darian because he does fit the requirements, and because Jake came 10 times before that one Darian. Now, I will tell you this too, though. We don't have, as African-American people, and I really appreciate you for having this graceful conversation with me, we don't have the privilege to sue people as much as the people are able to sue other people. We don't have the privilege to be able to say, hey, we should have got into this university. On top of that, I will say we don't have the resources to know that we can sue. And a lot of times we are put down.
Oh, Jamie, come on, Jamie.
You don't think so?
Jamie, there's enough lawyers. There's enough ACLUs. There's enough NAACP.
Right. JD, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. Let me tell you this. You're not wrong.
Jamie, come on.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I appreciate you for having that thought process. But I do want to let you know, because I do have Joy White waiting in the lobby. You have to remember that we don't have the same resources and the privilege and the knowledge as other individuals, so we don't know about those certain things. Let me tell you. Hold on. Wait. Let me say this, JD, real quick. As an African-American man who came from the hood of Chicago, who then made a way for himself as a first-generation African-American student, who now has a master's in broadcast journalism from the #1 university in broadcast journalism, University of Maryland, College Park, I am now in my first ever lawsuit in life. I never knew about that process. I never knew who to reach out to.
How old are you, Jay?
I'm 29. Just turned 29.
I'm 29. Jamie, all I could say is just read a little history of this country.
Mhm.
There have been so many advances. I'm 79 years old. I've
You've seen
lived
a lot.
through all of this.
Yeah.
I've lived through all of this. There have been so many advances in my 79 years for all races. And just look at some of the baseball films and some of the football films of the stands and some of the marches in the 50s and 60s, and you will see black people with coats and ties, and their wives with hats and overcoats, and their children dressed in suits. I'm talking about the 40s and the 50s. There has been so much progress in race relations, and you know what? If it wasn't for Obama, we would be a much straighter country, because Obama has started this race relation crap, and it is bringing this country down.
Let me say this, JD.
Pathetic.
Your points outside of the Obama thing are very, very valid. I'm gonna tell you why, because I'm all about holding everybody accountable and making sure that we're talking about the facts. You are very right. You are a more mature individual than I am. You have more experience, and I will say this: you're not wrong as pertains to time has passed, and so has freedom. Freedom has been given to people more and more. However, within that time, JD, freedom has still also been taken away from people. Resources have also been taken away from people. And even though resources,
give me an example.
I will. And JD, I will have to pot you down real quick, because I need you to call back. I really do, but I am on a really big time crunch. But I will say this, because I do have Joy White, who is the CEO of many different things, coming in. I got to give her time. Let me just say this, JD, and with all due respect, please call back, especially tomorrow, so we can have this conversation. But there's many examples where individuals do not have the exact same resource, because they don't have the money. They don't have the cell phone use. They don't have the individuals in their space who are able to educate them on how to get a lawyer, how to apply for universities and colleges that they want to go to, how to apply for grants, and so on. They may be on the table for everybody, JD, and I'm sorry I have to pot you down. They may be on the table for everybody, but the access to these resources are not the same for everybody. The privilege to be able to even know where these resources are not the same for everybody. Again, I'm 29 years old, you're in your 70s, and I respect that. Again, I'm validating what you're saying outside of the Obama point, but I want to make sure you understand this. I am a first-generation college student, and I didn't know about any of this stuff. I had to make way for myself, and even though I am very educated and I've learned a lot about history, again, I was a news reporter for 2 years, I'm still learning things. I'm still trying to figure things out, and this is why I'm really glad to have Joy White on this call, because, again, I didn't even know how to go to get a lawyer. I didn't know how to call. Actually, I was pretty afraid to get a lawyer. I didn't know how that worked. And when I called people, I wasn't met with the same excitement. I wasn't met with the same, hey. And I've seen my Caucasian counterparts who are like, yeah, we'll help you out, and da-da-da. And I feel like I'm trying to persuade the people at the front desk just to let me talk to the lawyer. So I really want you to understand that you're not wrong as it pertains to history has moved further. We have gained a lot of resources. People are becoming more equal, but equity is not the same. Privilege is not the same. Things are not the same. And actually, real quick, Joy, I know that you're here, and I see that you're coming in. I'm just going to skip the commercial, because I feel like you have something you want to say on this topic. So I'm going to go ahead and allow you in. Joy, real quick, for everybody who is just not tuning in. Joy White is the CEO of Flawed Masterpiece, attorney and reinvention strategist. We're going to get into our interview, but I see that Joy really, really does want to interact on this topic. So, Joy, welcome in. Woo!
Hello. How are you?
Hi, welcome in. Sorry to have you waiting so long again. So sorry, JD. I do want to continue this conversation, but Joy, I know that you wanted to get your thoughts in there, because you are an individual I'm talking about who lives through these practices and has these shared experiences.
Right.
So go ahead and give your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with
Right.
JD? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'll just say I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, the access is the access. And as someone who is a practicing attorney, I joke all the time, I didn't meet the first attorney in real life till I was already in law school.
Wow.
So I chose to become a lawyer based off of Claire Huxtable, off of The Cosby Show. I had not met an attorney till I was in law school. That's the first time I met an attorney. Turns out I'm good at the job. I actually enjoy the work, but I could have easily not have, because I didn't even know what the job was. So it was a very kind of romanticized, like, I'm making up what I think being a lawyer is.
Right.
And I know a lot of other Black and brown people who have done the same thing. So it's the access, the exposure is huge. And this is coming from people who are in these industries that
Right.
are still first generation.
And I appreciate that. And I think, again, with JD, I appreciate you for calling it, because I'm all about having respectful conversations. One thing we forget is that, like you said, even though we may know there's resources, we don't know how to get them. And as well, we don't have the same privileges to get accepted into those or given those resources. So a lot of times we're talking about affirmative action when we get actually, you know, before I say this, JD, I'm gonna actually agree with you on this. You made a very great point. Do your research, learn your history. I agree with you wholeheartedly, JD. But that is exactly why I'm saying we shouldn't get rid of affirmative action. Do your research, learn your history. Understand how if we get rid of these practices, these rules and regulations, and these laws that are put in place to protect those who are powerless, when we get rid of those things, we're erasing history. When we get rid of books, we're erasing history. And we're not allowing individuals who were like me or who were like Joy, who were first generation undergrad students, to be able to have this information. When we get rid of these things, we don't have the space to learn, we don't have the space to grow, and we don't know what happened in the past and why we needed those rules, regulations, and laws in the first place. Well, Joy, it's such a great way to have you into the show. Welcome in. Thank you so much. You're so beautiful, friend. Look at you. Shining bright like a diamond. Yes, Rihanna. So let's get into your interview because Joy White, you are the CEO of Flawed Masterpiece, attorney and reinvention strategist. And you're here to talk to me about your law firm, the White Legal Group, being a corporate employment attorney, being a certified transformational reinvention coach, and more. And I'll be honest, like I said, what? I've never heard about any of these resources. I have no clue what you do. And I'm like shocked that you balance this all. So let's take it piece by piece. Joy, you are an attorney. And just explain this to me. You're an attorney for your own law firm and you're an attorney for somebody else. Can you explain that to me?
So currently I am an attorney only for my law firm. So the White Legal Group is my law firm. So I'm the managing partner at that firm. But I've been practicing law for a little under 20 years. And so over the course of my practice, I have worked at other law firms. I was also the general counsel at Morehouse College for 4 years. So I was the main lawyer for Morehouse College. So yeah, but currently I am in my own firm representing a specific leadership client.
Period. That's Black excellence right there. I'm gonna be real honest, Joy. For the situation I'm in, I had no clue how to find a lawyer. I had no clue how to find a lawyer who looked like me or who had the same experience as me. So it's awesome to have you on my live. Joy, explain to me, what type of law do you practice in your law firm?
So I practice employment law and business law. So I'll do employment first. So employment is anything related to the employment relationship. I am trained to represent the employer. That is what I did when I worked at larger law firms. Currently, I represent the employees. So most lawyers do one or the other. I do both. Currently, I represent employees, primarily C-level executives, now doing severance negotiations, dealing with sexual harassment, discrimination. On occasion, I do take cases with individuals that may not be, C-level exec, but depending on the circumstances of their case, if it involves kind of some pretty severe sexual harassment, gender discrimination, those kind of things, I will take those cases on.
Okay, Joy. Now, you made a very important comment about your cases you take, and you said sexual harassment, and you said individuals who have been discriminated against. And I want to bring this back to JD because, again, as a first generation college student who now has a master's, I have been through so much. And as an African American man, we're told often to hide our feelings. We're told often not to speak out or to seek help. And so I had to redo the social construction of reality that I was built to understand through media and through society. And now I'm in a space where I'm more open to speak out, but I know there's men who are still older than me who don't know how to speak out. Can you speak to that audience about how it's okay to reach out to people like you for help when they've been sexually harassed or discriminated against?
Right. Well, I think that's the biggest issue. And I think there's some quote somewhere that's like, the only way you give up your power is by thinking you don't have any power. And I think even in situations where there is an imbalance in power, there are still things you can do even without an attorney, but then also in terms of reaching out to attorneys. I would say without an attorney, the most important thing is to complain. So employment relationship, even though it may feel counterintuitive, especially for people who are taught not to complain, the most important thing that you can do is actually formally complain. Go to HR, go to your manager and say, this is what's happening and this makes me uncomfortable as soon as it starts happening. because that lays the foundation for anything that comes after that. Because as soon as it escalates and then lawyers get involved, the first question is going to be, well, did you complain? Did you give the employer the opportunity to respond to it? A lot of people don't instinctively know to do that. They're trying to deal with it themselves. They're trying to resolve it. They're trying to talk to their friends and family. But it can undermine a lawsuit later if you want to go after one. So complain immediately. The next thing is, I do think people should look for people that look like them, or at least say that they do work that supports what you want. So if I'm a Black woman, I specifically now say I represent Black women, Black men, people in the LGBTQI community. Like, I'm very explicit about this is who I support. I think as an employee, when you're looking for a lawyer, you should look for people that not only do the work that you're interested in or need, but also people who demonstrate some kind of interest in the specific group that you're in, because there's going to be different sensitivities that are there, and that person is letting you know, hey, I understand the complexity. It's not just about the employment relationship. It's about generational issues. It's about cultural issues. And really, you want a lawyer that understands all of those things as well as the substantive law.
I appreciate you for breaking that down. You made a lot of valid points. However, I would like for you to touch on something you said, because as an attorney and as somebody who's been practicing law for under 20 years, which is freaking amazing, go you. Speak to me about how is it that you all know that individuals are afraid to speak out and they're afraid to complain. However, there's no rules, regulations, or laws put in place to protect that individual who just wasn't courageous in that space because maybe they were protecting their family, maybe they had food put on the table so they couldn't quit or they couldn't complain, or they felt like they'll be retaliated against. Why is there nothing in place that says, okay, well, you may have email proof, you may have text proof, you may have not complained, but we see that your case is valid, we're going to help you out?
Well, it's funny, you know, we talked earlier about know the law, read the history. So the issue with the law is based on precedent. So it's based on what happened before. So whatever the issue is, you know, when did the courts look at this before? How did they handle this in the past? And then you look at that and then you apply it to the current situation. So of course, there's going to be new things that come up and you have to deal with new issues, but those are always the hardest things to deal with. It's much easier, and that's just kind of how the law works. You look at precedent. So part of the reason that it's easier for an attorney to have a person that complains is because there's precedent, and we can go back and say, well, in these other cases, when it happened like this, this is what the court said. However, you can still bring a case, like if you didn't complain. Like if you have proof, you can bring a case. It is harder. It's a harder case to bring, and so an attorney has to. It's not impossible, no.
Okay.
So the lawyer just has to decide. And what I tell people all the time when they are trying to, you know, want to retain me is like, I always believe people. Like, I think to your point, it takes a tremendous amount of courage and effort to even reach out to a lawyer to ask for help. Just like you said, most people don't know how to do it. By the time they do it, it takes a tremendous amount of courage. That said, by the time they get to me, I tell people, I may believe you. That doesn't mean that you have a case, because the law is based on certain rules. Like the law is a rule-based system, and so I can hear you, believe entirely what happened, and I can look you in the eye and say that should have not happened. You do not deserve to be treated that way. Next point, that is not a legal case. And I think sometimes people automatically think something that unfair, objectively unfair, that happens in the workplace, that automatically means they have a legal case. That's just not true. That's not how the law works. Employment law specifically is different in each state. So every state has a different employment law, and then there's federal employment law that covers all states in the U.S. So that's why you want to go to someone who's who's an expert in the subject matter. So if you want intellectual property, you want to go to somebody who does trademarks, patents. If it's employment, you want to go to someone who does employment law, because there are a lot of nuances when it comes to that. But so I tell people a lot, and I have to tell them, you don't have a case. I believe you. What happened to you should not have happened to you. But I also have to be honest with you that what happened is not necessarily translate into a legal claim.
Gotcha. Now, Joy, we are live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook at the Jaime Dee Show. People are coming in and people are loving the fact that you are an African American woman who is in law, who knows what you're talking about, and has those lived experiences. Before we continue on to my questions, we do have Miss Dupar, who says, Joy, I have a question. If an employee breaches a contract and lowers a person's salary after they accepted it at a higher salary, is this cause to sue that company?
Well, it's a couple of factors. It depends on what state it's in. So it depends on if that state is an at-will state or if it's a state where kind of employment contracts count. So a lot of states are at will, which means employers can kind of do whatever they want. It's just the truth. Some states are not. So I would have to know what state it is. But if the employee signs something saying this is the salary that they were supposed to receive, if they start working and that's never communicated to them. So if no one says, hey, we're changing it, you work and then you get your first paycheck and then it's something different. That's a specific situation where you started working under the expectation you'd be paid X and now something different happened. That would be a problem. If you got an offer letter that said we're going to pay you $15 an hour, but then right before you started, they're like, hey, we're not going to be able to do that anymore. It's $12.50 and it's before you started working, that they can do that. And I mean, that's because they've given you notice. You still have the choice to not work there anymore. So the balance is if you start working under the understanding that you are being paid $15 an hour and no one has communicated to you that that hourly rate is different, that's a problem. If they do communicate, you have the right to work or not work. Like, but you can't necessarily enforce them. I know you don't give me this 15. You can't really do that.
Makes sense. Okay. Thank you for explaining that to Ms. Dupar. I appreciate that. Yeah. Now, I have another question, and this is because somebody wants to be educated. Is there a difference between being a lawyer and an attorney?
They're the same thing.
The same thing, just a different word, right? Okay. Gotcha. Look, let's talk about you being a reinvention strategist then. What is that? Like, what are you reinventing? Who are you strategizing for? Talk to us about that, because that sounds super exciting.
Thank you. So reinvention is really about like reinventing your life. So I'm a reinvention strategist because it's what I did in my own life, on my own healing journey. And I realized there's other people, Black women particularly, that I work with that need the same thing. And so what it means is you live your life according to a certain set of rules, a certain set of guidance, kind of similar to what you said earlier, like certain things were presented to you by your family, by our culture, and you kind of live according to those rules. And you may get to a point in your life where you realize, okay, this doesn't work anymore. Like these rules don't work for me anymore. But you may be far enough down in your path where you've chosen a profession, you've chosen certain, like you're deep in that thing. And you're like, all right, I want to pivot. I want to feel more authentic. I want to heal things that I need to heal. I want to experience life in a more fulfilling way. And so I help you do that. So I did that in my own life, and I help other women, Black women particularly, who find themselves at the top of their game, generally like people where everyone would applaud and say, this woman is killing it, yet she's unhappy, she's unfulfilled, she's not really sure, like I should be happy, but I'm not happy. And really it's because you followed a path that was never your path to begin with. Right. But then there's work that has to be done to unpack some of that first. And then after you unpack it, okay, how do you build what you really want now? Like, how do you begin to create the life that is meaningful and authentic for you? And that's what I help women do.
Joy, you are ripping women out the plastic so they can act brand new. That's what I'm talking about. You better get into it. I love it. Talk to us about why it's important to reinvent yourself. A lot of times we hear in our community, if you agree or not, find your thing, stick to it, be dedicated, and live your life.
I think that's probably never true for anyone, actually. Like, because we are complex people. Like, I think human beings we're complex, particularly when you think about cultural norms. Like, there's so much that all humans are given when they're born, like your family norms, your cultural norms, whatever part of the country or the world you live in. And these are all rules that other people came up with that have nothing to do with like who God created you to be. And that's accurate for every person. That's just accurate, right? Then depending on though your culture and where you come up, sometimes there's really narrow constraints. Like you are like severely limited in your ability to like explore and expand and kind of be kind of who you're called to be. And so I think the priority in reinvention is we all are on a journey, first off. So who I was when I was 20 is not who I was at 30, is not who I was at 40, now at 43. I am actually a different person. So I think that's
pause, Joy. Hold on. You said 43. Where?
43, yeah.
Where? Yes, you look good. Go ahead, Fran. Sorry, I had to stop you for that. 43. Woo! Go ahead.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead. I love it. Yes.
That's funny.
Yes.
But it's like, you know, and part of it now is like I am freer now than I have ever been. And part of that is that's what I want to share with particularly other women, other Black women, other women that have some of the background that I have. I have trauma in my background. I'm a survivor of several kinds of trauma in childhood and adulthood. And so as part of my healing journey, what I realized is, when you heal, you get freer. And as you get freer, you're more open to like experiencing the world differently, and you kind of figure out why you're here. And that's really the point. And it changes. And I will say that I think it changes over time. What you're supposed to be doing at 20 is different than what you're supposed to be doing at 30. And I think that's a natural progression. And the idea that we should not evolve as people is really, I mean, you know, I think it's not accurate for anyone, but I think some people are more willing to explore that. Part of why I do this work is I want to encourage other Black women that have backgrounds like mine to explore it, because it's not necessarily something that's been promoted in our community, especially if you've already reached a high level of success, quote unquote. It's really, it's not your first instinct to say, well, let me explore living a life that's more authentic, that may feel more good in my body and my spirit, but that may not be in alignment with what the world told me matters.
That's beautiful. Joy, I'm so happy that you're able to work through your trauma. I tell people all the time, and tell me if you're agreed or not, we only have a few minutes left, but you're never specifically healed. You're always healing. And it's where you are in your healing journey that matters the most. And so I'm very proud of you, because I'm an individual who deals with trauma as well. And you have the same shared experience as me as an African-American individual, where we're told to bottle up our emotions and just figure it out. And so I'm very grateful to have an individual like you who is live on this platform, having those living experiences and being a role model for others. Joy, you have Flawed Masterpiece, you have the White Legal Group, and you have your reinvention services. How do you balance all this? That's a lot.
It is a lot. And I will say that particular piece of it is still a work in progress for me. Probably one of the biggest things that I'm still working on is the ability to not overwork myself and not always feel like I need to constantly be doing. That is something I'm unlearning.
Same.
So even as I've, you know, so even as I've built this business, I have had to frequently modulate myself and kind of recognize how a lot of these practices were internalized. Like I internalized a lot of the need to constantly be going and be busy. And even when it's my own thing, I'm like, well, how did I get here where I'm still doing, like nobody's even pushing me. It's like, it's me.
Right.
So to answer the question, a lot of the work that I've been doing is trying to get really clear on what are the one or two things that I want to do in each of those categories. I am multi-passionate. And so I do like practicing law and coaching and selling products, but what is the, you know, the simpler way to do that doesn't stretch me so far, but still has the impact on the people that I want to have. So that I'm still working on, actually.
Well, Joy, I'm rooting for you. I'm sure you're going to figure it out, because listen, one thing I know is that when you get more responsibilities, more money, you get more responsibilities. But hey, I will say this, if you agree or not, these are things we prayed for. So at least we're in these positions and not where we were before. Because that's
you have to remember it.
Right. Because this is actually, I've been working for this role for 8 years now. This is my 4th week as a live morning radio talk show host. So, you know, clap.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Within these 4 weeks, I'm just like, how did I get here? Why is it so much work to do? You think Right, because there's this push now for everybody to be entrepreneurs, and technically radio personalities are entrepreneurs, and you're like, yeah, I don't gotta work for nobody. Yeah, I run my own business. And then you realize, oh my God, I'm working for everybody. Oh my God, there is no clock in or clock out. Oh my God, I'm even on vacation working. What is life? Look, I done took off my dang headphones.
Right, exactly. Headphones falling off.
Look, headphones ripping me out the plastic. But yes, Joy. Right.
Yeah,
It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I want to have you back because there's so many more questions I have to ask you because you just have so much knowledge to express and to share. Before we let you go, Joy, let our followers know, because there's a lot of them on YouTube right now commenting about you. How can they find you, get your services, and support you?
Awesome. So thank you so much for having me. And on Instagram, I'm at Joy White. So it's my name, just at Joy White. And then all my other handles are Flawed Masterpiece by Joy. So that's going to be Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. So I'm pretty much on all the channels, and it's Flawed Masterpiece by Joy is the handle everywhere except for Instagram. Instagram is at Joy White. My website is joywhite.me. And so if you go to that website, you can get to all my services, my law firm, my e-commerce store, as well as get me for coaching or speaking. So that's kind of the hub for all things, is joywhite.me.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations, Joy, on everything you're doing. I pray that you continue to find that
Thank
balance
you.
in everything. My pleasure. Come back onto the Jaime Dee Show. You have a great rest of your day, okay? I'm sure I'm going to see you again soon, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Sure. You're welcome. Have a good day, Joy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Everybody, that was Joy White. Let's give her that bell ring. She is the CEO of Flawed Masterpiece, attorney and reinvention strategist. She just joined me live on the Jaime Dee Show, which you are listening to right now on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM. Make sure to stay tuned because I'll be in New Orleans, booked and busy for Essence Fest, doing my show live from remote locations. So stick around, all right? You're tuned into the Jaime Dee Show. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for everybody who called in. Continue to call in 702-221-7283. See you tomorrow. Peace out. What's up, everybody? You were just tuned into the Jaime Dee Show, live on KSHP AM 1400 and 107.1 FM. If you aren't in the Las Vegas area, you can catch my show live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook at the Jaime Dee Show. That's TheJaimedEesshow. If you want to advertise your business on my show, email us at info@jaimedee.com. Thank you all so much for your support. See you tomorrow.